Baseball is dead.
Rest in peace.
And apparently it is rest in peace to the Dallas Braden that we once knew. Somehow, some way, Dallas found a way to distract us from Justin Haven's face today.
Well,
That's not the lead story. That's not the lead story. It's not.
The hell it's not. Ellen DeGeneres moves to London and she shows up on the podcast here.
That's why I did it. That's why I did it when I did it. We can move right along. The story is Dallas as it always is. Dallas, let's focus on you, baby. Today's your day. No.
Yeah. It's like Jay Hay robbed a bank in Hawaii during Pearl Harbor. It's like we're not worried about that right now. Like, you can have the money, brother.
Well, how the fuck did I?
Yeah.
I just tried to knock it down a little, looking for a little internal AC. And
take the hat off. Take it off. We have a lot to discuss. Don't waste our fucking time. We have a lot to discuss today. Take the hat off. Take it off. Take the hat off. There it is. All the way. I mean, all right. So
I feel so naked right now. So naked. I can't describe to you. This is definitely living out that dream, that nightmare that everybody talks about. Front of the class, naked. I mean, you get a date afterwards, but good Lord, what I'm going through right now.
Is it though? I mean, like, I feel like if that's the comparison you want to use, being naked in front of the class, haven't you been like wearing a Speedo in front of the class for a while?
Yeah. Fuck you.
I'm just saying. No, I mean, like, how much of a jump scare can it be? I mean, for me, I was sitting here and Jake came in, then Jay Hay came in, and usually when Dallas comes in, like, he's just loud and you hear him right away. So I'm like looking down, like waiting for Dallas. And then all of a sudden I hear his voice and I forgot about the tweet. I'll be honest. I forgot, like, he announced this on Twitter that he was going to be shaving his head. And I looked up and I wish we were recording because it was genuine shock on my face to see what we were dealing with here. But the shock turned to excitement real quick. And I would love to explain to the Baseball is Dead listeners why I'm so excited this morning. And that's because we have Bob Kendrick on the podcast today.
Yes.
Yep. Very exciting. So that will be coming up. And B, because we've kind of formulated a little bit of a plan with Dallas. I mean, he brought in some great ideas and we've kind of mixed and matched these ideas in a way to get the listening and viewing audience involved in Dallas Braden's hair journey, which is exciting. Like, that's exciting to me. So you're going to you're not going to Turkey. Like, we originally talked about this, like, you're not going to go to Turkey and do the whole shebang over there with like the hair transplant. No, but I've seen this on TikTok, the people that just like slap some glue on your head and then they put some like a wig on and then you can kind of style it however you want. You, Dallas Braden, are open to the listeners voting on which hairstyle you adopt.
Yes. Yeah, it's gotta here's the one caveat that we have to put in place. If I'm going to play with you guys, you got to play with me. All right. You got to meet me halfway. No shit. You just got to meet me like 30% of the way, honestly. And that's just, I am going to have to be on television for limited points of time. Like, let's just remember that. We can't go flock of seagulls. All right. We can't do that. That's one thing that we can't do.
Wait, so does this mean no scally cap?
No. Does not mean no scally. This means like opening
I don't know
day.
If I love that.
Well, no, listen. Opening day, we might take it for a spin with the top down. Absolutely. Friday night, top down Friday nights. Like, we can absolutely. There's no reason. If the people are going to vote on this, we can't keep it from the people. Jared.
Imagine Dallas Braden is a MLB broadcaster and he has a full-on mullet Monday through Thursday, and then on Friday night he's Stone Cold Steve Austin bald, and then for that Sunday matinee he's got dreadlocks. It's just, I mean, the possibilities are truly endless here, and I'm all for it. I support you on this journey.
Yeah, look, I'm not one of those I'm not one of those people who are afraid or ashamed and I totally understand, because look, it's an ego thing. I just don't look. I'm not hot. Never been hot. Not looking to get hot. So I really don't give a shit. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be cool. I've always been super interested in, like, bro, could you imagine just like waking up and being able to fucking boom, today I'm rocking this. Like, I don't know what it is, but I got a lot of hair. Let's figure it out.
I envy you. I mean, I've always wanted long hair. Like I grew up a wrestling fan in the 90s. All the guys had long hair. Like I pussed out during COVID when I didn't have a haircut for a while, and I was like, I should just let it go. And then I came back from New York, and one of my buddies was a barber, and he faded me up at his apartment. So that was the end of that. But I mean, there was a time period where I was really letting it rip, and I was like, I feel like we should see the full extent of what my potential is. So I'm envious of your position, Dallas, because I mean, I think, first of all, our listeners are not mean. I don't think that they're going to pick something that makes you look bad. They're going to make you look fucking sweet. Like, that's why I'm jealous.
They're like, all right, dude, if this is going to be in a group, and it's consensual, a consensual group glow up here for the lettuce, I have to be willing to participate. But that's why I said, just meet me 30% of the way. So how are we going to do this? Jake, do we need one of those fucking supercuts, no free ads posters where they got like fucking 30 different hairstyles we can pick from? Like, how do we do this?
I think we should make it a Discord exclusive.
Yeah, like instead of us telling them, here are the styles that you have to choose from, I think that they should just send us pictures of the style that they think would look best on you, and then maybe we narrow it down. Like we are the panel. Joe is kind of one of the deciding factors here as the resident male model of the podcast.
Yes.
I think we should narrow it down to like 5, and then we put that 5 to a vote, but we take submissions first to kind of field through.
Okay. I'm with that. Yeah. This needs to be flushed out. Yeah.
What do you think, Joe? What are your early impressions on what do you think would look best on old DB here?
Cornrows, baby.
Joe, I'll send you a picture later of me with cornrows.
Oh, you've already done it?
That's the most obvious thing ever.
Yeah, I feel like if you just showed up looking like Bronson Arroyo, then that plays. That plays.
Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be great. I'm going to feel like fucking Marty Jannetty with fucking hair just flowing back there. It's going to be so sexy.
Yeah, imagine if we give him the Hulk Hogan and it's just like it's just bald on top but it just wraps around.
When I had long hair a few years ago, when I finally cut my hair, that's what I did, because I knocked it down with like a 3 guard and just did a 3 like around here and just had.
You could probably do the Hulk Hogan now.
It looked gross. Yeah, if it grows up, but I got curly hair, so it's gonna grow out. I look like Bozo the Clown. It's not gonna look all trailer park and street and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we've spent enough time on my fucking terrible lettuce.
No, it's not terrible. It's about to be legendary. You're about to level up like you've never leveled up before. This is 40. This is 40.
Yeah. Not going to Turkey. I'm leaving it to the Discord. Here we go.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I guess, I mean, that takes calf implants off the table for me if you're not going to Turkey.
Okay, well, that still doesn't mean that we can't get you some fucking inserts, though. So we got 2 to 3 inches left if you need them on each side.
That recovery process is like a year to be able to walk again. If you were to break my legs and put metal rods in my legs.
But would never be
I've looked into
higher.
calf implant. So let me tell you this, Dallas. Like I have actually consistently been working legs. I'm seeing growth in my quads. Nothing in the calf. Like that is all genetics. So I'm not taking calf implant surgery off the table because I don't think that there's anything you can do about it. Like if you don't, if you got it, you got it. If you don't, you don't.
Dude, I go back to like when I was working out, because I worked out with a couple of my friends who were freak athletes, very strong people. And one dude is squatting like fucking 600 pounds. And he would talk shit to me. He would get pissed at me because he'd be like, I squat 3 times what you fucking squat, and your calves look so much better. And I'm like, I don't have great calves. They just have definition, sort of.
Yeah.
And when you put him on him, he'd have looked great, but he looked like he was, he'd like fucking olive oil, like no calf definition. And the guy's squatting the fucking house.
Like, I'm an open book here. When I started, because of like my stomach thing, I can't do squats, so I can only do leg press. I I was leg pressing like a plate and then like a plate and a quarter. Like like you could go to a high school gym and dudes were blowing me out of the water. But now I'm up to like 450. So like I can move some weight on the leg press. Like I've had incremental progress, but the calves, nothing. So I'm not above calf implant surgery. If we both want to go,
you don't got the calf machine in your basement?
I do.
Okay,
I do.
good.
Yeah. I'll do like a sitting, like calf thing for 3 plates, and it's nothing.
I'll do like that right there could probably be a great starting point for where we're lacking in the calf department. When you highlight your workout with, I do this seated calf thing with 3.
It's a seated calf raise. It's there's not there. Trust me. I know there's people listening right now that are like, preach, brother. Like I've been working calves for 10 years. Haven't seen a single ounce of growth, and it is what it is. But,
working more calves than a fucking dairy farm, aren't you?
That's right.
Still nothing to show for it. It's all right.
Yeah, I got plenty to show for it on the Underdog Fantasy app, though.
Oh, tell me.
That's just a different area where I am seeing growth. I mean, you basically just, run it up against them boys, and you're looking pretty good.
Hey,
what?
Who got treated to the most exciting W? Huh? Your Underdog Fantasy app paid you off if you had them boys. That's right.
Dallas had himself a week.
You can't pick the Cowboys in the Underdog Fantasy app, dumbass.
No, you were picking the over, Joe. You were picking more, Joe, and that's what happened. Is they scored more. Got that, Joe?
Dude, you should be trying to get draft picks anyway. You should be taking for Shadur and Dion coming home for the Dallas Cowboys.
They've already built a statue out in front of Vegas for Shadur.
Yeah,
nice.
Dion's beard looking very snowy white these days.
Yeah, I mean, he's on another level.
Hey.
Well, he's a grown-ass man.
A lot of stress up there at the top.
That's right.
He looks amazing, though.
He does. He truly does. And so does the Underdog Fantasy app. It's the greatest time of the year. Again, football's back, and it's here to stay until February. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog. Win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on your favorite player's stats like touchdowns, passing yards, and more. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward, and signing up is even easier. Just head on over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or on UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code Jared. That's Jared. And Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code Jared to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. The Angels were doing stuff again today.
And it should be applauded.
It is, but like, are the Angels the 2024 offseason version of the Royals, where they're early and often just kind of picking away at the free agent market, spending money?
If it does turn out to be that, I think that there's a lot of positivity to that, because I think it signifies a club that has said, you know what, I think we've got a good idea of where we're going. I think we are ready to start making those moves. If there's any sort of transition period that's going to occur with Moreno still at the helm of ownership, there's going to have to be some things that change, and committing to getting better in ways that you haven't maybe in the past is something that I think needs attention paid, because we've had the conversation about the Angels being willing to invest in their product. It's just at times been a very woeful exercise. It has been something that has continued to feel like it has just missed the target. You need pitching, you go get a third baseman, right? Stuff like that has happened. We go back to the 2021 draft. You got 2 dudes out of the 2021 draft where they selected 20 fucking pitchers. 2 of those dudes have got to the big leagues, and they haven't stuck in the big leagues. They've just been to the big leagues. So I think this is a matter of the Angels saying, we're looking for some guys who we think can help and maybe plug some holes, but we also are in the mix for some guys that we'd like to have around for the progression phase that we think we're going through as well. And that's where a Kikuchi for a 3-year piece pops up, because now you start to think about where he fits into this rotation, probably at the very top. And we can get into the conversations about what do we think Kikuchi now turns into with the added pressure of not being able to necessarily hide in a rotation. I think those are all going to be great conversations, but the way that he pitched in Houston when he showed up is, and the numbers and who he turned into, you're talking about a guy who took his opponent average down almost 100 points. Opponent slugging was down over 100 points. So he made adjustments. And I think we can all at some level attribute that to the institutional knowledge maybe given to him from the Houston Astros. And he was revealed to be somebody else. And he was like, ooh, I like that guy. I like the Kikuchi you're showing me. Let's go deal. And that happened. And the Angels have said, here's a guy that can help us, maybe on a relatively cost-effective deal.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Kikuchi, I like the signing. I think it's fair to ask, to what end, which I think you guys were kind of hinting at. It's not very often that you're able to sign far and away your best starting pitcher for 3 years and $63 million, or sign them at this point in the offseason. So, if we're going to complain about teams not putting competitive rosters on the field, that the Angels have, done a lot. Kikuchi, Newman, d'Arnaud, Hendricks, Kingery, Noda, Soler. You can debate how much of or how many of those are actual steps forward, but Kikuchi is unquestionably in that category. I would say d'Arnaud and Soler are also in that category for the roles that they'll play on this team as well. So it's good that I think there's an investment in the product. I also think it's a reflection of two other things. It's hard to, traditionally, I think you'd look at a roster like this and maybe we would sit here and say, it's time to retool, it's time to rebuild or whatever. It's hard to do that, practically speaking, I think, when you have $75 million a year invested in two players that are not coming off the books this second in Trout and Rendone. You could say those are sunk costs, and maybe to some extent, at least I think with Rendone, you're correct, but it's still hard to practically, I think, acknowledge $75 million in that regard. And for the fact that Trout is still hoping to be competitive, whether that gets them there or not. And lastly, I think it's a reflection of the barrier to entry for the postseason. And that maybe a team like this would pivot in a different direction under previous formats. But if you're looking to try and get your way to, hey, we're in that bucket of teams that could win 78 to 88 games, depending on how things fall, or 78 to 86, whatever you want to see it as, that's a potential postseason team. And maybe maybe these investments are worth that incremental edge towards that. So I think it's definitely a reflection of how the postseason works now too.
Side note, because you mentioned Rendone, and it just got me thinking, do you remember the Rendone sweepstakes being that aggressive to where the number got to where it was? I don't remember it being this intense bidding war.
No, that's why I think at the time there was some, I don't want to call it head scratching, but it was almost like, okay, you were aggressive and you went and got your dude. Don't know if that was the dude that you needed in the moment, but shit, you went and got him.
They pivoted from Cole. It's Rendone doesn't fucking pitch.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So here was because remember, everybody was like, oh, he wants to go to LA. He wants to be back home. He wants to. And I feel like the Angels were honestly one of the only teams in that moment who were being real with themselves and were understanding, sure, he might be from LA, but I think the entrails, I think the tea leaves are telling us that this is not going to end up here in Orange County. That's not where Garrett Cole is going to be popping up his circus tent for the next 10 years. And so they immediately had to make that move. And I don't want to call it a panic decision, but in that moment, they said, all right, who's the next guy up? Rendone, we got money. It's yours. You want it? And he was like, fuck yeah, I want it. Absolutely. Because they weren't going to take their time trying to go down that road with anybody else. Garrett Cole snubbed him, said, see you later. Thanks, but no thanks. And they said, Rendone, you're the dude. And Rendone was willing to take the money, and he did. And so in the moment, the Angels feel like they made a decent pivot. And to their defense a little bit here is if Rendone actually plays baseball and the injury issues aren't what they are, he doesn't foul a ball off his leg and walk into the training staff and go, hey, this hurts kind of bad. And they're like, oh, you'll be fine. And he's like, well, actually, it's a fucking broken leg. 3 months later, well, what are we doing about that? And if all of that doesn't happen, maybe Rendone is a little different. Maybe things are different. And the conversation is different. I don't know that it's drastically different because the lack of production has been what it has been or not what it has been. But
Jay, hey, you had a thought?
I would just love to see the Angels do one or two more things. Like, I know that seems ridiculous to ask given the laundry list of transactions they've already executed, but like one or two more Kikuchi level transactions, because I feel like this almost feels like a half measure. And I feel like if you're going to go down this path, then like just keep going a little bit. And like, I don't know whether that's, Bregman or it's another pitcher. Like, I'm just throwing, like, it could be Blake Snell, whatever, whoever you want to name as the person who is the best fit here. Like, I just think it would be like you're kind of on that precipice. It feels like, I don't know what the projections say as far as win totals right now, but it just feels like you would really benefit from maybe pushing for 4 or 5 more extra wins on this roster.
This is going to sound like quite the insult, like, and it's not meant to be an insult. I'm just trying to put myself in the head of a free agent, like a top position player free agent. And do you think that there's any thought of like, I don't want to be the next Chris Bryant, where I just, all right, the money is great, but like, is the fit for me? Like, am I just going to take the most money and go somewhere where I don't genuinely believe I have a chance to win ever again?
I don't know if there's, look, I mean, because ultimately what you're asking is, are you afraid of taking money and then being competitively irrelevant?
Yeah.
That's the question you're asking a big league player, a big league competitor. And I think any competitor would tell you, look, man, I'm trying to find the balance between getting breaded up and being able to compete, because one can affect the other. And we always talk about the guys who get paid and go on to crush, and the guys who get paid and reel it in, take a back seat, and just kind of go through the motions.
Use Bregman as an example. All this dude knows is winning. Like, he came up into a championship team, and he's been in the ALCS every single year except for last year, but still made the playoffs. Like, all he knows is winning. Like, I'm not trying to single out Bregman. My thought process is like, if it were me and all I knew was winning, that would be important to me, because I would think like, am I going to be as good if I'm not in a winning environment? Like, is that the secret ingredient that makes me great?
What's driving me? Absolutely. Yeah. What's driving me? And if you've already got the money, and that's why I said, like, has Bregman cashed out per se? Has he gotten his money? Has he been paid?
He hasn't had his biggest payday, but he's not going to go starving.
He's already had a $100 million contract.
Correct.
I think
exactly.
It might have been 100 on the dot, but yeah.
Yes. But that's the point.
Not his biggest payday.
He has gotten in terms of his payday, he has gotten his payday. He has received his generational wealth. He is in a great position regarding that. So now you're taking a dude who has received the payday, and he's also lived that life of championship aspirations year in and year out. So you're now not able to woo him with the dollars. He's now only coming if he has a chance to be competitive. And
he's got to come to a place with a good salsa market,
And hey,
preferably an area that eats a lot of Mexican food, sell a lot of salsa.
Good salsa market down here, Joe. Great salsa market.
LA.
But I genuinely think that this is for him. It's got to be prioritizing W's from here on out, because if he's talking about, or if he's considering legacy and how he shapes up and how he stacks up against his peers when this is all said and done, I think winning is going to help that conversation.
When it comes to the Angels, does it feel this way to you guys that they kind of just sign players? Like, they don't always go after the best fit. They're kind of just like, they almost like pull up MLB trade rumors and they're like, all right, who are the top free agents? Can we get this guy? Like, I don't know. Like, if they're going to make another big move, don't you see it? Like, do you trust that this next big move that they could make is going to be like, that piece makes sense? Or it's just like, oh, he's one of the top free agents and they paid him.
Good, Jay.
No, I mean, I think what they've benefited, if you think that's how they're approaching it, what I think they've benefited from then is that their roster is so void of talent in so many spots that you could throw a dart and sign the free
fill a void.
And it's most likely filling a void. Yeah. So, and Kikuchi, whether that's a good signing or an accidental signing or whatever, it fills a void. He is definitely their best pitcher on paper to start next season in terms of track record and quantity. I know Soriano was impressive last year. I know they like Detmers, even though last year was brutal. But Kikuchi's their best pitcher. I don't know, like, it's I know the Royals were mentioned at the very beginning of this conversation, and it's easy to laugh that off because it's like, well, where's their Bobby Witt? And like their starting rotation isn't as good as, but like if you think about what we thought about the Royals entering last season, if you put the Witt thing aside for a second, if you're on the Angels, like your front office, and rebuilding fully is not an option, you've been told that. I think you can squint at this roster and think, man, if things break right for XX, like Renjifo's a good player. Like we know Mike Trout, Soler's an upgrade. Like Zach Neto, like he was legitimately very good last season. We think Ohapi is going to take another step or like be more available, et cetera. Like I think you can paint a rosy picture here that gets you to like, 80,
82.
Yeah. Or so wins. That's just everything I'm saying has to go right in a sense. But I don't know. I think for will it amount to a lot? I don't know. And to your point, will the next signing be a pitch perfect match? I'm not sure. I'd rather see them do something almost than stand pat and say we're good now, because I don't think this is quite good enough.
It's almost like the Angels when you think about it from like an NFL team perspective. On draft day, you've got your targets on the board, and you really need a D tackle. You really need a D tackle, and the best available halfback, the best available receiver is on the board, and they've fallen into your lap, and you're like, you know what? We've got a great receiving core. They've had incredible chemistry. We really need a D tackle, and that guy's sitting down there probably at like 6th or 7th, but this guy's in our lap right now. We're taking him. We're doing it. Give us the receiver. It's like, whoa, we're so close to getting what you needed.
I mean, jokes aside, we're probably looking at an outfielder or a starting pitcher, you would imagine, or some sort of contributor in the bullpen. One of those three has to be it, because if you look at who is on the roster for next season, whether you like them or not, it's hard to, like, they have a DH now in Soler, beyond what they want to do with Trout getting DH time, et cetera, Rendone getting DH time. They have Rendone and Trout locked in. They have Neto, they have other people. So unless you're going to improve on the Joe Adele situation in one of the corner outfield spots, or supplement that with something else, you're probably talking about a pitcher, which seems to me there's quite a few options left if you're talking reliever or starting pitcher.
It would be perfectly Angels to trade for Cody Bellinger.
Well, I can tell you this: if you're Angels fans, listening to
that's
this,
a great fit.
From what I understand, the Angels are not done. There will be more.
Okay.
The problem with the Angels is they have Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani and suck. So no matter what they do, everyone's going to think they're going to suck until they don't suck.
Yeah.
But they got washed. I think that's their best thing they got going for him. I feel like that's the guy he could rile up the boys, get the young cats excited to play, go out there and see a gritty Angels team. When was the last time we saw a gritty Angels team?
2002.
2002, man.
2009, I would say.
Yeah.
The 2009 Angels team. They were the Angels team that got over the hump. They finally beat the Red Sox in the playoffs. Joe, let me ask you, because I know when we did the opening day stream this year, that a large theme of the opening day stream was Mike Trout comeback tour. Is there any thought that, like, is Mike Trout even a thought in your head for 2025? Like, is that, like, is seeing a great Mike Trout complete season something that, do you even care to see it again? Like, is that, or just there's so much going on in the game now where your focus goes elsewhere? Like, is Mike Trout a thought for you?
Mike Trout's always got to be a thought. Everyone would love to see him go back. But if you think about it, like if Mike Trout comes back and he has like a Mike Trout season, and maybe not MVP season, but like, an all-star season, since he's on the Angels and they've kind of, it's like, I feel like we're past the trade talks of Mike Trout getting traded. If that starts ramping up again, then it's interesting. But if Mike Trout's just going to be a beast on the Angels like he's been for this whole career, and the Angels are mid again, no, that doesn't excite me or anyone, really. Like, I guess back like a decade ago when he was the number one player in the league, breaking records on this pace to like be the best player of all time, that was interesting. Now we got other guys doing that. So he's not going to be like doing that anymore. And he's on a mid-level team that no one cares about. He's only really interesting, like fully interesting, if it's the trade talks, like what team can he go to? If he plays good enough and then that becomes an actual scenario again,
isn't that right?
That's where I get excited.
And I'm so glad you said that, because this isn't a it almost feels like there's been a passing of the torch per se, and we didn't see it. There wasn't like an announcement made. It just has been, I think, accepted across the game that when we talk about, because when you say a Trout season, you almost have to go back 5-6 years to identify the Trout season that you're talking about, or a Trout-like season that you would be talking about. Because is a Trout season him hitting 270 with 25? Like, that's not a Trout season that you're talking about, right? And I don't know when's the last time we saw anything like that, anything close to that. It's been 5-6 years easily. So when you have guys that are, we have Ohtani doing what he's doing, and then you have other Ellie De La Cruz and Ronnie Acuna. When you have this kind of star power developing, think about a player like Jarren Duran, who kind of slips through the cracks at time on the national stage because there's so much other stuff going on. Bobby Witt Jr., Aaron Judge, the roles that these guys have been on. Like when Bobby Witt Jr. gets breaded up the way he does and then parlays that and really responds by giving the Kansas City Royals a MVP caliber campaign. And what do you want to do? Shift focus to Mike Trout struggling to stay healthy again and what that doesn't mean for the floundering Angels? People are over it. People are over it. And I think a lot of this is partly due to the idea that Mike Trout is probably okay with that. Meaning he didn't want to be on your poster. He didn't want to be on your commercial. He didn't care about any of that before. And now that it's not going well, he doesn't care that you might not be focused on him. He's going to do what he does. But as far as like the national attention goes.
Yeah. That's enough Mike Trout discourse for me today, I think. We did mention the Royals and Reds. They had a little trade that went down. Jonathan India is headed to Kansas City in exchange for Brady Singer. I think this has win-win potential. I don't know. I don't know that anyone trade. Looked at. Yeah, it's a straight up baseball trade. Jay, hey, what were your early impressions on this deal?
I totally agree with you. Win-win, at least potentially. I think both of them fit needs for their new team. Jonathan India, shout out Brendan Tuma, but Jonathan India would have ranked behind only Bobby Witt Jr. In on-base percentage last year among players who got really any sort of playing time at all for the Kansas City Royals. So, maybe he's not exactly the player that we thought he was going to be, but he has been a very productive, solid player, and he fits this offense and what this team needs. And Brady Singer for the Reds, I think fits as an intriguing option for that rotation. I mean, last year was Hunter Green's full-on breakout, but after him, I think, securing quality innings pitched is a good priority to have targeted, and Brady Singer would have led the Royals in innings pitched each of the last 3 seasons. So that has value, even if we're intrigued by Nick Lodolo and Nick Martinez was good last season. I just like it. I know there was a second player in the deal going to the Kansas City, but I would have, for the most part, it's Singer and India, and I think it's a really fascinating win-win trade.
I think what excites me about this is the Singer growth. This is going to be now a moment, because you've been waiting for Brady Singer to continue to take these little steps of progress, and they've happened. And now it's going to be a moment where all of the things that help guys get comfortable, right? Your familiar surroundings, your teammates, and things like that, where you're experiencing this growth, that's all going to change. That's all going to go away now. And he's got to get comfortable in a different place. And so I think it's really going to show if Brady Singer as an individual has been able to make those strides, how much of an impact did or do his surroundings have on his growth. But I think this is a great opportunity for Brady Singer to leave the nest, flap his wings, and really become a top tier pitcher, a frontline guy that I think the Reds will be able to depend on.
Couple of downstream implications here that intrigue me that I'd be curious your guys' thoughts on if you have any. The Reds, I think, is the more intriguing side of it, but to me, it feels like kind of put up or shut up seasons for a few of their, kind of young-ish position player, former one-time prospects, and for various reasons. Like, they're not all the same reason that it's a put up or shut up season, but like Jonathan India has been traded in part because, the situation got too full. And this podcast, I remember talking about this on this podcast a long time ago, how this situation was coming. So it's not surprising, but, between Noelvi Marte, Encarnacion Strand, McLean, who's been very productive when he's played, but has obviously missed a lot of time with injury, like those three guys, not to mention guys who are coming up through the system, that seems to put some level of attention on them now. And then for the Royals side, maybe less sexy, but, this opens up a spot, or at least, paves the way for Kyle Wright's return, or at least opportunity in the rotation from the Kansas City side, former Atlanta Braves. So, just in terms of things to get excited about here in late November, I thought those were kind of interesting.
It's fair.
And for the Reds, what do they got? Isn't fucking McLean and Encarnacion Strand, were they playing in the fall league?
They both were, yes.
Yeah. Like that's just, I mean, it's a nice place to be. It can be viewed a little differently, I think. But if you've got multiple guys that are going to impact your big league club, right now, basically performing in a prospect league extended season, there's some good to that. I think other teams could look at it as question marks, like, well, that's what you have playing in your big league roster. They're in the fall league right now. That's how good they are. That's how good they think they're going to be. So I think there's some intrigue around this Reds club moving forward.
Well, I think that's just because they're both injured this year, right? McLean didn't play.
Yeah, McLean missed almost the whole.
And Strand was doing steroids, bro. Well, not to blow up his spot. Was that the same guy?
Who?
Wait, did I just?
I don't know.
Maybe he didn't do steroids.
That was Noelvi. That was Noelvi. I don't remember that. Yeah. Okay.
Noelvi's a steroid cheater piece of shit.
That was Big Joseph. Young Joseph's opinion.
Christian would never.
No.
Respect. Did you guys see? I don't know if you guys saw this, but I mean, I'm sure everyone's seen the video. Brady Singer, legendary viral video in college, getting fucking pissed off at the rain delay.
At the rain.
Freaking his fucking shit. This guy is a competitor. Did you notice that the guy who was consoling him during that was Jonathan India?
Yep. Yep.
Isn't that crazy? Now they're getting traded for each other.
Look at that. Joe, did you compile a TikTok list for today's show?
I got TikToks.
All right, we can wait because I want to hit on one more topic. Then we have Mr. Bob Kendrick, and then on the back end, I want to get to Joe's TikTok list. That subject before we get to Mr. Kendrick. This is supposed to be the week that Juan Soto gets his offers. I've heard from, and let's just say not the most reliable people, that some teams already threw out numbers and like made offers. I tend to not believe that. I feel like it's like Dallas, you would know better. I know you weren't a Boris guy, but you met with Boris and you've been to the HQ and all that. The likelihood that a team in their first meeting with the player made an offer, what is that?
Not strong. Yeah. I mean, you paint a picture without throwing out figures. You probably throw some names out there that are comps, and you have an idea, right? You get a blurry image of the pool that you could be stepping into, but there's no hard figure thrown at you. And
I've just been told to not sleep on the Blue Jays. I don't believe that any numbers have actually been thrown out there, but I've been told to don't sleep on the Blue Jays in terms of like them.
And I can
really
respect that.
Up.
I can respect that because the Blue Jays were all in on Shohei Ohtani. And if you're talking about two guys who are available right now, who could potentially change the trajectory of your franchise, Juan Soto would be a name. And so if you feel like you've missed out on your first international superstar, wouldn't you like to make sure that you're in a position to capitalize on the next time that
Sure.
opportunity comes around?
Sure, but
So-
that's how you end up with Rusney Castillo, anyways.
Well, but it's also, Jared, how you end up kind of in a position where you find yourself similar to the Angels, where here was our target. Here we, oh, what? Whoops. We don't have, who do we go to now? And
Yeah.
who's going to be the guy who
Well, I don't have
essentially
any concerns
catches the
about Juan
windfall?
Soto turning into Anthony Rendone or Rusney
No.
Castillo, but the precedent has been set where, you know, teams that miss out on their actual intended target then pivot to something else for similar money. It doesn't always work out, but I'd feel pretty good about it working out with Juan Soto being your plan B.
Also, pretty dismissive of what Rusney did for Pawtucket.
Oh my God, he was the best player ever in Pawtucket.
Yeah, growing that audience.
Yes. Yep. They had to shut it down. That they were like, we can't ever top this, and they literally shut down the Paw Sox after
So
that.
let me ask you this though, because I found Big Poppy's comments interesting for this reason.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been the guy who has walked into the building and told us that the reception is no longer what it once was when it comes to these elder statesmen and, heroes of yesteryear, and maybe you don't fit in or aren't received the way that you should be received, frankly. If that was the case at one point in time and he felt that way or was feeling that energy from that room at one point in time, how quickly and what happens? And again, for him to look at Juan Soto and go, they didn't want to talk to Big Poppy. They don't care that Big Poppy's in the building. But let me tell you, if you play here, you're going to feel like you have the Dominican Republic supporting you. And it's because Big Poppy's here. And it's like, okay, well, are you going to be the only dude that he's listening to? And like, how much? So I understand what the support of having a guy like Big Poppy in your corner can do. And I understand how comforting that can be for an individual. But how much of that is real? How much of that is ready to be a thing again for Juan Soto if a year ago we were at a point where a guy like Poppy is not even, I don't want to say welcomed, but is really not, doesn't carry the
Appreciated.
cachet that you think he would.
They don't appreciate him. And I think it's a generational thing. Like these young guys, like I told you, I was at Poppy's house in 2021 and he's just sitting there on FaceTime with Jose Abreu. So this is after Jose Abreu had won the MVP in 2020 and he's still just like tapping in for pointers and whatever else. Like there's still guys that like, they'll look at Poppy and be like, absolutely, I want your advice and please like share your knowledge with me. But then you've got other guys that, they think they've got it all figured out. And I think it's a generational thing. I don't know. But obviously Juan Soto would be one of the guys where it's like, oh, I can tap into this whenever I want. Absolutely. Like, I don't know. It's just a matter of preference.
Yeah, I want, because I mean, Soto, he's obviously going to be super impactful. I just wonder if there's a situation where something like that matters to him or doesn't matter to him, where it impacts his decision.
I think it's going to come down to money, Dallas. That's just my take.
I
Also,
want to
we can-
believe. I don't want to believe that though.
You should.
I know. I know.
Well, I mean, like what I was saying the other day, I went on another podcast and we were talking about the Soto thing. And I said the most important piece of information that's come out of all the Juan Soto sweepstakes stuff was the meeting with the Yankees where he was intrigued and asked about their farm system and their pipeline. That shows me where it's like money. Yes, that is not all boxes are created equal. That's the biggest one. That's the most important one. Check that. Okay. And then after that, I want to know that I can still win here. I want to know like what do you got coming? Can you build around me? And, I think there are some teams that are better positioned to build around Juan Soto than just being like, hey, we can afford you. We're not going to be very good. Like Alex Rodriguez with the Texas Rangers. Like, yeah, we can afford you. We're going to finish in last place every single year. You're going to win a bunch of MVPs, but then we're going to trade you because you are tired of losing. Like, I think you can learn from A-Rod's mistake as well.
But that doesn't, I mean, you're not throwing the Yankees in that boat, are you?
No,
Because they
No.
just went to the World Series.
I didn't say the fucking Yankees. I'm talking about the Blue Jays. Like if you go to the Toronto Blue Jays right now,
That
are
is a
you?
risk. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, are you thinking like, all right, yeah, the next
Well-
10 years, like we're going to be in 7 ALCS. Like that's not how I would look at it.
No. This is why he has to be very careful about this is, like very different situations, but Kikuchi, you're now the dude. So the pressure is on. There is nobody else really to alleviate what's going to be expected of you. There's nowhere to hide in that regard. Juan Soto, you go to Toronto. Who are they going to be looking at when things don't go well? I mean, they're not going to be looking at Bo. They're not. They're not going to be looking at Vlad. They're going to be looking at you.
Yeah, I'm just not doing that. Sorry, especially with Vladdy on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
Man, decisions. But we'll see as we get more information about the offers that are being extended to Mr. Juan Soto, future left fielder of the Boston Red Sox. We'll see. But as of right now, that's all the information we got on that. I did see, we'll save this for tomorrow night, Jake, but I did see Bob Nightingale, Baseball is Dead alumni. Bob Nightingale had a nice little report this morning about how the Red Sox, between Corbin Burns, Max Fried, and Blake Snell, they want 2 of those guys. And listen, they can talk that talk. They can talk it until the night runs long. But until I see it, I'm not getting excited. I'm not talking that shit, Dal. You know what I look like when I'm cocky and arrogant and feeling on top of the world. I am very tame right now.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
If they sign, if the Red Sox offseason were in March or whatever, the book is closed and their offseason consists of having signed one of those pitchers that you just named,
Mm-hmm.
and then like 2 or 3 like complimentary like depth free agent signings or whatever. But
Mhm.
that's the crown jewel. Are you at this point satisfied with that?
Say it's Blake Snell and Teoscar Hernandez. Yes, I'm satisfied. Am I like thinking, all right, we're back, World Series? No, I'm thinking we're going to be a better team this year than we were last year. And wondering how the Roman Anthonys, Marcelo Myers, Kyle Teals, and Christian Campbells of the world fit into that and what they look like when they get to the big league level. I think I'm just happy to be better than we were last year and very much intrigued about what those 4 could bring to the table. And if it's a slow start, if it's disappointing, pathetically, I will just be happy watching them at the big league level, like knowing that the core is here and like we can build around this.
I just know that there's a lot of pressure on ownership from the fan base, rightfully so. And I'm just wondering if there's
it's because they're talking that talk. Like they've set a very high bar of expectations. I'm just not necessarily.
Like,
I'm not falling for it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not falling for it.
So one starting pitcher and like a good outfielder, corner bat would kind of be
need a righty bat.
Acceptable. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
I would be happy with that. But yeah, this feels like a good time to begin our interview with Mr. Bob Kendrick. All right, we are now joined by Mr. Bob Kendrick, the president of the Negro Leagues Museum. It is a privilege and an honor to have you on today. Try number 2, because we did try. We have good internet today. We got a microphone. We got everything. So I'm going to ask you the same question that I started with last time, because it's a great story and I want our listeners to be able to hear it. But your first time stepping into the museum, what was that experience like? Because it's a very funny story.
Well, the year was 1993. And fellas, I was working for the Kansas City Star at that time, the daily newspaper. And so I was working in the promotions department, which functioned as its in-house advertising agency. And I had drawn the assignment of promoting the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum's first ever traveling exhibition, an exhibition called Discover Greatness. Man, it's hard to believe that exhibit is still touring now 31 years later.
Wow.
But to be honest, guys, I didn't even know there was a Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. And it was literally just right down the street from where the Kansas City Star operated. And so I said, well, I better go find this museum so I can do a little bit of research, background information, so I can put the promotional campaign together. I pull up in front of the Lincoln Building, which is directly across the street from where the museum currently operates. And I go up to the 3rd floor, and I'm looking for this Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. And I'm not sure I'm in the right place. And I finally peep my head in an office, and the late Don Motley, who was the executive director of the museum at that time, he's sitting at a desk, and I look in and I say, well, I am looking for the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. And y'all, he looks at me, he says, son, you're standing in it. It was just a one-room office that had a few photographs on the wall, a few boxes of memorabilia, and that was the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. But as I tell folks all the time, when I walked into that little one-room office, I literally walked into what would become my passion. I fell in love with the museum, I fell in love with its mission, and I fell in love with the incredible athletes who made this history. And Dallas, I was a baseball fan. I'm a fan. And I quickly realized how little I knew about the history of this game and its connections to the history of this country. And I guess you could say, guys, that I became engrossed in it. I wanted to learn as much as I could. And y'all, I didn't want to keep it to myself. I wanted everyone else to feel the same way that I felt about it. And then I started to meet the players. And it was their spirits that grabbed you. Because I think you guys would all agree with me if I said had they been bitter about the things that transpired in their lives as they were trying to play baseball in this country, I think every one of us would have said, you know what, you had every right to be bitter. But to a ball player that I've ever met, not one of them ever harbored any bitterness or spoke any ill will toward anyone who may have attempted to perpetrate something against them. And I found this to be just an incredible, endearing spirit. Now I'm falling even deeper in love with this story. And it took me a minute, Jared, to kind of figure out how could this be? Well, first and foremost, they were never going to be bitter about baseball because you could not convince them that they weren't playing the best baseball that was being played. Now, the world said the best baseball was being played in the major leagues, but they never believed that. They knew how good they were. They knew how good their league was. And quite frankly, y'all, the major leaguers knew how good they were because they played countless exhibition games against one another. And the record books bear out that the Negro League teams or the Black All-Star teams won nearly 75% of those head-to-head matchups. So no, they weren't going to be bitter about baseball. Now, did they like the things that were happening to them as they traveled the highways and byways of this country? Of course not. You know, as we shared before, Dallas, when you were here, it wasn't uncommon that they could ride into a town, fill up the ballpark, but yet not be able to get a meal from the same fans who had just cheered them or not have a place to stay. So yes, guys, they sleep on the bus and eat their peanut butter and crackers until they could get to a place that would offer them basic services. But they would never allow that set of social circumstances to kill their love of the game.
Just simply incredible stuff, Mr. Kendrick. And we have been fortunate enough to be regaled by your stories over the years. I want to know, what story was it when you were first being introduced, when this was first being injected into your veins? What story was it that captured you? Maybe, and I have a different question, but I want to know, what was it? What was the one that got its hooks in you, sank its teeth in you and said, Mr. Kendrick, you're ours now. You're not going anywhere.
and number one, I was, induced by the serum of Buck O'Neil, that
Yes,
spirit of Buck O'Neil.
Yes,
as I tell people all the time, Dallas, once you're bitten by the Buck bug, it's a wrap, man. You just want to be on Buck's team. There's no antidote for it. And I was no different. When I met Buck, it was love at first sight, and I was drawn by his spirit, his charisma, his charm, and this unyielding passion to want to preserve this history. And man, I'll never forget when I first met him in 1993, one of the first questions that I posed to him was, what motivated you to want to build a Negro Leagues Baseball Museum? Of course, he's the founder of this great museum, legendary Negro Leaguer in his own right. And his answer was succinct, but also very poignant, so that we would be remembered. He did not want them to be forgotten, not for just what they gave the game of baseball, but even more so what they gave this country. And that's been our quest ever since. But now on a personal note, I grew up in Crawfordville, Georgia, 80 miles east of Atlanta, 50 miles west of Augusta. And I grew up an Atlanta Braves fan. Henry Aaron is my all-time favorite baseball player and my childhood idol as a kid growing up in Crawfordville, Georgia. And y'all, I had no idea that my favorite ball player had played in the Negro Leagues until I got introduced to this as being a part and associated with this museum. And it blew me away. And there's a wonderful photograph that we have. And you can find this photograph online now. It's been pretty widely circulated of a young Henry Aaron standing at the train station in Mobile, Alabama in 1952. Y'all, he couldn't have weighed more than 150, 160 pounds. Frail, looked rather afraid. He's about to get on the train to go join the Indianapolis Clowns. And as you guys might know, at that time, he was a skinny, cross-handed hitting shortstop. So in the case of Mr. Aaron, he was a right-hand hitter who was hitting with his left hand on top. And of course, that is unorthodox. The fear is that you break your wrist hitting in that manner. Well, guys, Henry Aaron is knocking the cover off the baseball in a highly unorthodox fashion. And when he gets to the Clowns, they put the right hand on top, and the rest, they say, is history. Well, if you look at that photograph, there's a small duffel bag right by his foot. And I had the esteemed honor of walking my childhood idol through this museum. It's hard to believe, 25 years ago. And of course, as you know, this year marks the 50th anniversary of him breaking Ruth's record when he hit record home run 715. And guys, this is the first and only time I've ever been starstruck. And every time I was around the hammer, I was always reduced to that nearly 12-year-old kid that when he hit home run 715, it's still hard to believe that it's been 50 years ago. I was nearly 12 years old. And as he's circling the bases there in Atlanta's Fulton County Stadium, I'm circling the bases in my mother's living room 80 miles away. And she had an old couch that was first base. The old TV was second base. She had another old couch. It was third base, and her recliner was home plate. And as my childhood idol was touching them all, I'm touching them all too. And there we were face to face. And he had seen that photograph, but it had been a while. And he looked at me and he says, of that small duffel bag that was right by his foot, he says, "Bob, I may have had 2 changes of clothes in that bag, $1.50 in my pocket, and a ham sandwich my mama had made me, going to go chase that dream." Yeah, and he also said this. He said, "I didn't know if I was leaving home to go play with kids my own age or grown men." And guys, as we know, he was going to go play with grown men.
Yeah.
And he more than acquitted himself because 3 months later, Henry Aaron was gone. He was signed by the Boston Braves, who would become the Milwaukee Braves, who, of course, would become the Atlanta Braves. And Buck O'Neil said the first time he saw Henry, they're playing in a spring training game down in Mobile, Alabama. And he says he goes out to exchange lineup cards with the Clowns manager, great manager named Buster Hayward. And Buck said, "I knew every player on the Clowns team. But when he looks at the lineup card, he sees batting in the 3-hole this kid named Aaron." And Buck said, "Buster, tell me about this kid Aaron." And he said, Buster let out a big grin. He said, "Oh, Buck, you got to see him." Buck said, "Okay, well, we'll see what he got." Buck said by the end of the day, y'all, that kid Aaron had gone 4 for 4 with 2 home runs. He said he was sitting down at dinner later that night, and he said, "Well, Buster, I ain't gonna have to worry about that kid Aaron by the time y'all get to Kansas City." He said, "Buck, what you talking about? Somebody's gonna sign him." And sure enough, the Boston Braves did just that. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Unbelievable.
It's incredible.
Unbelievable. The hands, that's the story. When you told me that story for the very first time, I just, you can't even process a guy going through and then, no, it's done this way. Oh, okay. I'll just hit more homers than everybody now.
And he would be the first to tell you he didn't look at himself as a power hitter. He looked at himself as someone who wanted to hit the ball hard, and it just happened to go over the wall 755 times.
So I just went to the museum for the first time ever this past September, and I mean we took our sweet time in there, like reading literally everything that was on the walls and all the displays. So I wanted to ask you, out of everything that's in there, it could be a quote, it could be a display, anything. What would you say makes you the happiest, and what would you say is the most impactful?
I go back to that Henry Aaron photograph because that photograph is really important on a couple of levels. People know what Henry Aaron accomplished at the major league level. It has been well documented. But most of them are like I am, or like I was. They didn't know he had played in the Negro Leagues. Now, we've done a better job of helping people understand that now. But Jared, I guess you can say it is almost like a validating point in the museum. Because people indulge me. I'm telling all these stories about Cool Papa Bell, Josh Gibson, Oscar Charleston, Turkey Stearns, all these legendary ball players. And people are always very respectful. And I know they look at me like, okay, Bob, they were good. I don't know if they were as good as you say they were. And then you walk across that photograph of a young Henry Aaron. Or there's another great photograph of a 17-year-old Willie Mays as a member of the Birmingham Black Barons. And all of a sudden, the light bulb clicks on. Because here are two of the greatest Major League Baseball players of all time. They're going to be in everybody's top 5. And they both come out of the Negro Leagues. And now all of a sudden, well, maybe Turkey Stearns or Cool Papa Bell or Josh Gibson, maybe they were as good as old Bob was saying they were. Because it is not far-fetched that there just might have been ball players in the Negro Leagues, and I know it's scary to think, that were better than Henry Aaron and Willie Mays. And I'll never forget Mr. Mays' first visit to the museum. And he walks in, and of course, at that time, he was really having some challenges with his eyes. He would wear multiple pairs of glasses to help his vision. In Dallas, I can only imagine what that had to be like for a man who made his living with his eyes, to be struggling with his eyesight.
Had that taken away from him.
And he walks in, and Buck, myself, and a whole entourage of others were with him as we were escorting him through the museum. And as any great center fielder would do, when he looked out on the field and saw those statues of the life-size players, and they all, of course, are cast in position as if they were playing a game, the first question, Jared, that came out of his mouth to Buck was, who is that in center field? And Buck looked at Willie. He said, Willie, that was you before there ever was a you. And that you was Oscar Charleston, whom Buck O'Neil would say without hesitation, the greatest baseball player he ever saw. Now, he thought Willie Mays to be the greatest major leaguer, and most people concur. Because as you all know, Willie Mays could beat you every way in which you could be beaten. He could beat you with his bat, with his arm, with his legs, with his glove. And of course, his illustrious professional career began in the Negro Leagues as a 17-year-old center fielder, patrolling center field for the Birmingham Black Barons. But Buck always believed that the greatest baseball player that he ever saw was Oscar Charleston. Oscar Charleston was the consummate 5-tool player. Hit for power, hit for average, could field, could run, could throw. In 1921, Oscar Charleston had one of the greatest single seasons, not in Black baseball history, but in baseball history, as a member of the St. Louis Giants, when he led the Negro Leagues in home runs, triples, doubles, stolen bases, and batting average in the same season. And people didn't know who Charlie was. And so Willie, Henry, Ernie Banks, in many ways, they validate the guys who preceded them. And that is why those images are so important. Now, the single, I think, most amazing display, and I'm biased, obviously, that I think is in any museum anywhere in the world is our Field of Legends that I was just describing, where you see this miniature baseball diamond with those life-size statues. They all represent 10 of the first group of Negro League players to be inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. And Jerry, you might recall, Buck O'Neil is on the outside looking in because he's managing this great all-star team. And what we wanted to create was the experience that you could see the field, but you couldn't get to it. And so we wanted to segregate you from the field because we wanted our visitors, particularly my school-age audience, to at least remotely experience what segregation was like. So in the case of these tremendously talented and courageous athletes, they knew full well, fellas, that they were good enough to play in the major leagues. So close to it, yet so far from it. So from most vantage points in the museum, you can see the field, but you can't get to it. Wow. And so the only way that you're allowed to take the field at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum is that you have to earn that right. And you do so by learning their story. And by the time that our guests make their way through this museum and walk out on the field, it is an overwhelming feeling of belonging. And in my estimation, now you're deemed worthy to walk out on the field, as I like to say, with 10 of the baddest brothers to ever play this game.
Well, and Mr. Kendrick, I am so glad that you just shared that anecdote with us, because I was when I was there a couple of years ago, you were just finishing a tour, and that was what was transpiring. Was you were walking this group, you had just walked this group out onto this field, and I was standing off to the side. And I was like, oh, you think I'm not going to ear hustle right now? You think I'm not? I'm a part of this tour now. I'm here. Exactly. I'm standing on the, and I was just listening, and I felt everything that you're saying right now. Like you felt like you had walked the halls, you had made the turn, you had looked at everything. And that's really what's capturing your attention the whole time is you're looking at the walls and you're looking over here and you're like, dude, that's a life-size statue of Satchel.
Yeah, no,
I want to get over there. How do I get over there?
To him and take the pictures with him. Yeah, exactly. And I guess they get it. They really do. And I do think it feels almost like that triumphant moment when Jackie Robinson walked out on the field as a member of the Brooklyn Dodgers, and how that moment in time changed things so dramatically, not in just baseball, but in this country.
Mr. Kendrick, how good does it feel? How proud are you of what we have seen in terms of transcendent presence with the information around the Negro Leagues? Yeah. I'm a video gamer. I play MLB The Show, and I shared this with you when we talked. I have forced anybody who comes into my home and is going to spend any extra time with me, sit down, watch this. And I get the game out and we're going through, but the lessons that are learned, the stories that are being told by you, and the layers that are being peeled back on these players and on this league. How big of a point of pride is that for you to think you have come from, sir, standing in an office with a few photos to now, if you play baseball, if you play video games, you know who Mr. Kendrick is, and you are learning in depth who these stars are because of what you're able to give us. How good does that feel?
It is tremendously gratifying. But guys, I've always subscribed to the belief that if you do something that you know is bigger than you are, it is one of the most rewarding and gratifying things that you could ever do. And so to be a steward of this story and to essentially take the baton away from Buck O'Neil, and I should say he handed the baton over to me, and then to take it and run with it, to keep moving his museum forward, it is tremendously humbling, but also tremendously awarding at the same time. And y'all, that video game has turned me into a household name in the gaming community.
You're a star.
It is by far one of the biggest things, if not the biggest thing this museum has ever done, because millions upon millions of young folks and young adults are not only learning about the Negro Leagues, but they're falling in love with the Negro Leagues. And y'all, I saw myself doing a lot of things. I never dreamt that I would be in a video game. And let me tell you, number one, my 13-year-old granddaughter thinks it's the coolest thing in the world that her grandpa is in a video game because all her friends are playing the game. And she kind of gets to kind of say, yeah, that's my grandfather. And it is pretty cool. But we're seeing scores upon scores upon scores of young people coming to this museum because they saw the museum in the video game and they want to meet the guy that was telling the stories in the video game. And I always like to share this story because it's such a wonderful indication of the impact that this video game is having. So last summer, Dallas, after the game, the first iteration of the game came out in 23. I was taking a group of potential investors. You guys may be aware that we're working on an initiative to try and bring expansion Major League Baseball to the great city of Nashville.
Yes, sir.
And when we're successful, the team would be called the Nashville Stars. After the old Negro Leagues team. Be the first time ever in Major League Baseball history that one of its teams would be named after a Negro Leagues team, which would be game-changing in its own right. So I'm taking them on the tour, and we end up, of course, on the Field of Legends. And I'm going through the litany of introduction of the players, position by position, one after another. And we get to old Satchel on the mound, the great Satchel Paige. And I'm telling my Satchel Paige stories. And in the video game, Satchel Paige is the only pitcher in the game that has names for his pitches.
Yeah.
Everybody else, you choose fastball, curveball, change-up, slider. Because Satchel actually did name his pitches. And so Satchel had what he called his midnight creeper. He had the two-humper. He had the bat dodger. He had the hesitation pitch. He had the long tom, the short tom, the jump ball, the trouble ball, the radio ball, the wobbly ball, the dipsy-do. And he also had a pitch that he famously called his B-ball. And as I would typically do, I would always pose to my guests, do you know why he called it the B-ball? And fellas, when I raised the question, there was a young white kid standing right down the third base line with his dad. He couldn't have been more than 9 or 10 years old. And he looks at me, he raises his hand, he sticks out his chest. He said, Mr. Kendrick, I know why Satchel called it the B-ball. I say, you do? Well, tell the folks why Satchel called it the B-ball. He says, Satchel called it the B-ball because Satchel says, it bees where I want it to be when I want it to be there. And I looked at him, I said, man, you must have been playing the show. And his daddy looked at me, he says, yes, he's been playing the game and he's been paying attention to the stories that you're sharing in the game. These kids are coming to the museum, Dallas, and they want to show me how Satchel had his double pump wind up, the high leg kick. They're going to their little league practices, want to throw the B-ball like Satchel did. And it just touches you here because that's exactly what we wanted to accomplish with the inclusion of the Negro Leagues in this game. And I think it goes to, in many ways, verify what I've always believed. I don't think there was ever a time that people didn't want to know about the Negro Leagues. They just had no way to know about the Negro Leagues because it's not documented in the pages of American history books. Thusly, countless generation of us, we've gone through our own formal education without knowing one of the most significant chapters, not in baseball history, but in American history. But what it also does is it lets me know what I've already understood from the get-go. There's this misnomer that our children don't care about history, but they do care. It just becomes incumbent upon how I present that history to them. When I gave it to them in a mode and medium in which they were accustomed to engaging with, it registered. It hit home. And that thirst for knowledge is there. Yes. And so we've whet their appetites with the first 2 iterations of the game. I just got back from San Diego about 2 months ago, recording content for year 3. We have a 5-year partnership with Sony.
Let's go!
For the inclusion of the Negro Leagues in this game. And we've won multiple awards already for how we're using a video game to teach history.
That's incredible.
It's been simply incredible. Mr. Kendrick, the last question I have for you, sir, from me is anybody who's going to listen to this, anybody who has any inkling of who you are and the impact you've had on our game has sat down and been taken through a magical ride through history. We have been fortunate enough to have you at our disposal. That 9-year-old boy was fortunate enough to have you at his disposal to share a very proud moment for him because of what you have given him in terms of an education on a extremely important part of our game and our history. So I ask you, sir, because we're not letting you go anywhere. You're ours. But who is going to tell my grandchildren these stories? Who is going to be tasked with the responsibility of making sure that these stories do live on, that these players and these individuals and the sacrifices they made and their journeys do live on? Because you received that torch, as you said, from Mr. Buck O'Neil, and we have you. Please, sir, tell me that there is somebody that is forced to follow you and listen to everything you say so that this continues.
Well, number one, I hope that these stories never die, because the stories that I get to share are the stories that I heard directly from the people who lived them, the likes of Buck O'Neil, Ernie Banks, Mene Minoso, Monty Irvin, Ted Double Duty Radcliffe. The list goes on, and I've been very blessed to have been able to absorb that firsthand from them. And every time I tell those stories, Dallas, I feel like I am keeping them alive in my mind and in my heart. And while whoever that might be that follows me, and it is certainly part of my responsibility to identify a successor who will then follow me. Number one, I hope to leave this museum in a far better financial position than it was when I inherited it, so that they won't have to be locked into just worrying how you're going to operate your facility. But I don't want these stories to ever die. And we've built a treasure trove, a great archive, whether it's through my own podcast with Black Diamonds, the video game, some of these other things like we're doing here with you guys on Baseball is Dead, that these stories will be there for them to hopefully do the exact same that I did, absorb them and continue to share them. And as we now set our sights on building a brand new Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, an incredible standalone 30,000+ square foot facility that's going to be built right around the corner from where we operate now, adjacent to the former Paseo YMCA, the birthplace of the Negro Leagues. It was in that historic landmark that Andrew Rube Foster led a contingent of 8 independent Black baseball team owners into a meeting in that very building on February 13th, 1920. They had walked out establishing the Negro National League, the first successful organized Black baseball league. The new facility will be built right there adjacent. And I guess you could say we will have gone full circle right back to the very place that it all began. And that's right around the corner from where we currently operate. That project is, it is costing out at an anticipated $30 million. Woo! But we're going to build Buck a new house. Yeah. I just told someone the other day, I am as excited as you can be about having to raise $30 million. But y'all, that's a long way from that one-room office. And with the expansion of the museum, that allows us to expand the staff and gives me a much better chance to kind of tab someone to become my successor. Because that is a very important next phase for me. Like I said, I want to leave the place as healthy as I can financially, but also to at least have someone that I would recommend. Now, my board of directors may think otherwise. That's certainly up to them. But I want someone to come along and hopefully I can set the stage for them to follow right on in my footsteps.
It's incredible. Last one from me. We've all seen 42. I was wondering who you think I know it's hard. It's almost like picking children at this, like, favorite kids. If you could pick one player to tell their life story from the Negro Leagues on the big screen, who do you think deserves the whole Hollywood production? Which player from the Negro Leagues should be the centerpiece of a movie?
I think it almost has to be Rube Foster.
Rube Foster, yeah.
The architect. He was the mastermind. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because we are working right now. We are pitching, and I'm pitching hard, for there to be a dramatic TV series done on the Negro Leagues episodically, because I think you need that much time to flesh out these characters. And as my friend Buck O'Neill would say, you don't have to fictionalize the Negro Leagues to make them entertaining. Just tell the real story. But there are several folks, if you're going to do a movie about them, Rube Foster is the first guy that comes to mind, because he was the mastermind behind the establishment of the Negro Leagues. And he had to be a masterful salesman, because he had to convince 7 other independent Black baseball team owners to give up their independency, with the fundamental belief that in order for the Negro Leagues to survive and thrive, that it needed an organized body. And he was able to do that. But in my own estimation, Jared, Rube Foster is the most brilliant baseball mind this sport has ever seen, and no one knows who the heck he is, even though he is rightfully enshrined in the National Baseball Hall of Fame. Now, keep in mind, he had been a great pitcher himself in the early era of Black baseball. As a matter of fact, he is credited with having invented what we now know to be the screwball. Back then, it was called a fadeaway.
Fadeaway.
And he perfected that pitch so much so that the great Major League manager John McGraw would sneak Rube into his camp so that Rube Foster could teach Christy Mathewson how to throw the screwball. And Christy Mathewson threw the pitch all the way to the National Baseball Hall of Fame. Now, he's best known as this visionary, this tremendous leader. But fellas, Rube Foster is the rarest of baseball figures. Man, he would have gone in the Hall of Fame as a player, as a manager, and as an executive. And you don't find many, if any, that check all 3 boxes. Yeah, no, I mean, as a manager, he was so tremendously savvy to the point that he was known to fine his ball players at the turn of the 1900s as much as $5 if you were tagged out standing up. No. You were supposed to slide.
Slide!
Yes. Rube would draw a circle down the first base line and a circle down the third base line. And if every one of his players couldn't drop a bunt inside the circle, he would be fined. He was adamant about the style of play that would become signature to Negro Leagues baseball. Fast, aggressive, daring. The players would bunt their way on. They steal second. They steal third. And man, if you weren't too smart, they were stealing home. And that's what Foster preached. But the other side of Foster was he left a trail of folks who didn't like him. So you either love Rube or you hated Rube, because Rube ran the Negro Leagues like a tyrant. He controlled every aspect of Black baseball operations. So when he started the Negro Leagues, he had either booking rights or ownership of 4 of the original 8 Negro League franchises. And so what he essentially does is he divests ownership of 3, gives up those 3 teams, and then he kept the Chicago American Giants, and in a deal with the Negro Leagues, he was paid 5% of the gate. Now, in 1920 alone, over 400,000 fans attended Negro League games. I ain't that great at math, but if you getting 5% of that 400,000 who went through the turnstiles, you doing pretty doggone good.
Yes, sir.
And he did. He ran the Negro Leagues like a tyrant. And so there were some who didn't like Rube. And the story has it that he's on league business in Indianapolis in 1925. And he's exposed to a gas leak while asleep in his hotel room. A passerby walks by, smells the gas, kicks in, rescues him. He's unconscious. When he comes to, he was never the same. He likely suffered brain damage while in that unconscious state, and it caused him to have fits of violent outrage, which ultimately forced his family to have to institutionalize him, where a few years later he dies of a heart attack. When Rube Foster dies, the fans of Chicago who absolutely adored him, they lined the streets for 3 consecutive days to pay their respect to their beloved Rube Foster. But you see, guys, there is great belief that gas leak wasn't accidental, that someone tried to take old Rube out, and just maybe it was an inside job. The most brilliant mind in baseball history dies in an insane asylum. No, you can't make this stuff up. No, there has to be a dramatic TV series done on the Negro Leagues. And guys, I sure hope they make old Bob the executive producer.
Well, I tell you, they would not be doing their job, sir, if you did not have your fingerprints all over that thing. I am waiting for that to. I'm waiting for that to download right now. I already need it.
I can't wait.
That would be incredible.
Mr. Bob Kendrick, thank you so much for making the time today. We'll definitely have to have you on again soon. Like, I feel like we've only scratched the surface on the stories that you have to share. Definitely, if you have not, go to the Negro Leagues Museum. It was a core memory for me as a baseball fan, having seen it on video so many times. It was almost like you got to like visit a dream. Like, I've seen it so many times, but I'd never been there. So be sure to check that out. And thank you so much for all your time here today.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. It's great to catch up with you guys. Happy holidays to you. And,
you as well.
And please, you know, you're always welcome. The carpet is rolled out whenever you want to come here to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum.
You'll find me in the merch shop is where you'll find me. I already have like 5 or 6 different jerseys. So like this conversation is only going to motivate me more to go on an online store after this. So thank you for that.
Thanks, fellas. I appreciate y'all.
All right. Huge thanks to Mr. Bob Kendrick for making his Baseball is Dead debut. That was fucking awesome. I kept looking at the time because I was like, I have so many questions. I want to be respectful of his time, which is why at the end I'm like, you're coming back. Like, this is like kind of non-negotiable. You're coming back. There's just so much untapped information that, I mean, because he wasn't there when I was there. Otherwise, I would have just annoyed him for 2 hours. So we will have him back on. But even that was just awesome. Just like I could just listen to him talk all day.
He's just a dude, like he starts talking and I can't peel the smile off my face. Like,
Same.
Because I know you're
Go
like,
back and watch the video.
Like, just say words, dude. Say words. And I'm fucking like, yes. Yes. He is so fucking fun to talk to, man. So fun to talk to.
Yeah. So I think we have we're debuting a new segment, and then we're teasing a newer segment. So obviously we talked about having Joe dive into and expand on some of his TikToks that he puts out. We're going to be doing that to close this one out. And then there's also a new segment that we want to tease for later on. But before we do that, this show is sponsored by Betterhelp. The thing about online therapy for me, first and foremost, I don't like leaving my house. I think online therapy is great. I've done in person, but online therapy has been my thing since 2019. I think I was in person from 2010 to 2016. And then I've been pretty much online for almost as long as I've been in person. And that's why BetterHelp is great, is because you can get online therapy, your choice, dealer's choice. If you don't like your therapist, you can make a switch. It's very, very easy. It's sometimes hard to remind ourselves that we are trying our best to make sense of everything. And in this crazy world, that isn't easy. Here's a reminder to send some thanks to some people in your life, including yourself. And you can do that with BetterHelp. Especially around this time of the year. I know it's specific to me. I because of the job, I think November, I kind of just, you're going 1,000 miles an hour and then you just stop. So I find therapy to be very beneficial. But for everybody, I think the holiday season is almost a time where everyone could benefit from that as well. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com /baseball. betterhelp.com/baseball to get 10% off your first month. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/baseball. All right, Joseph, what do you got for us?
Bet, man. I think the biggest thing on the docket, and I mean, this is a conversation for everyone. It's a topic we've probably talked about before, but the Olympics in 2028, I'll tell you right now that 100%, I will 100% guarantee that MLB players are going to be playing this shit. And it's all because of Shohei Ohtani. Because I don't know if you guys saw that he has like a meeting scheduled with Rob Manfred to talk about the Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
You see that?
Yeah. I saw your TikTok being like, Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred was like, how the hell are we just going to pause the season for the Olympics? We're not doing that. And then Shohei was like, well, actually, I want to do the Olympics. And Rob Manfred was like, let's talk about pausing this fucking season for the goddamn Olympics. Like, can we have that conversation, Shohei?
Right. And that's 100% how this shit went down. I mean, like, Bryce Harper went on your guys' podcast, 4 years ago?
2020.
And was just being like, I want to play in the Olympics so bad. I don't like WBC doesn't do it. I want to be in the Olympics. I mean, like, and he was probably the biggest star in baseball at the time, probably. Nobody gave a fuck in terms of MLB actually changing their tune, because in order to play the Olympics, pause the season. I mean, we did the math, or I'm not sure if we did the math or I found this stat somewhere, but I think it's like just in ticket sales, pausing. Stop fucking laughing, Jay. Hey, you piece of fucking shit. You motherfucker. Whatever I'm about to say is true. And if you don't think so, you could suck my dick, dude. This is fucking true.
Tell him, Joe. Spit.
This is 100% fact. And if you think it's wrong, you're an idiot. Listen, pausing the season, apparently, I guess 2-3 weeks, that's like $150 million just in ticket sales that MLB can't make. I'm sure it's way more than that if you count all the other money that comes into MLB revenue, but just ticket sales, $150 million. So if you want to give up $150 million, that's a lot of money to give up. However, if you play the Olympics in Los Angeles and Shohei Ohtani is going to play in that Olympics in his, I guess, new home in Los Angeles for his home country of Japan, there's no way MLB doesn't make that money back. Like, they might make $1 billion in whatever making this tournament go down. If everybody plays, Shohei plays, everyone from Japan comes in, and then that's another problem that they're worried about. Or in the past, like, yeah, MLB can pause for 2 weeks, but is NPB going to pause their season for 2 weeks? Is Korea going to pause their season? Like, what are the international players like? But now you look around, it's like all of Japan's best players by 2028, they're all going to be here anyway. Like, the amount of players who are going to be in this, and I'm just saying, like, I think it's 100% guaranteed at this point, because it makes way too much sense.
Feels like the biggest hurdle, if it is a hurdle, is just getting all of the different leagues, international and alike, on the same page, committed to a 2-week period of downtime where they're able to fiscally come to a point where they can digest it. That right there is going to be the biggest hurdle if you're trying to do something like this. How do we get a bunch of billionaires on the same page and okay with losing a bunch of money, but prospectively being able to make that up on the back end? That's all it's going to be. Because from the player perspective, I don't think we have to have that conversation. We all know they want to play. We all know they want to get after it. We all know that. But we all know and have always known it's about not getting hurt so that you don't get that money taken from the team that you're committed to.
But also, I think even if MPB or KBO or all these international leagues, like, say, like, some of them are like, no, we're not going to pause our season, I think you'd still have enough talent. Or it would just be like all the MLB players play. That helps America beast out, because we're playing like a half-studded Japanese team who can't play their guys in MPB. And we have the Olympics at home. We're just flexing on everyone. America's the best. That's probably the best case scenario, honestly.
Hasn't this been a thing for hockey? Like, hasn't it?
Yeah.
We never sent like NHL players to the Olympics, right?
Well, they did it a few years ago, I believe. They did it for
the
a few
first
years
time.
where they paused the season and then they stopped. I think they're bringing that back this next Olympics, this Winter Olympics. So they're letting NHL players play in it again. And the interesting thing is actually Japan did this in 2020, and none of us gave a fuck about baseball in the Olympics in 2020. No one could name anyone on the American. I mean, America had like Scott Kazmir, Todd Frazier, like washed up guys with some prospects.
Well, respect
Tristan
Scott
Cassis
Kazmir.
was on the team.
Yeah, he was on the team. That's
So
where
you
he
had
got
like
the American Nightmare nickname.
Yeah, everyone knows that nickname. We all heard that. Tristan Cassis, the American Nightmare, dude. That's what I call him.
That's true.
You had like Joe Ryan, like people like that. But like Japan, and we did not pay attention at all, bro. Japan had Yamamoto, Roki Sasaki. They had fucking Seiya Suzuki. They had all these guys. They were fucking stacked, and no one knew we didn't know who they were at the time. But they trashed us. They went undefeated, whatever. But Japan basically paused their season, being like, we'll pause MPB. They're doing the Olympics in Tokyo. We're going to pause the season, let all our players play in it. Japan's international team is going to be sick. Like, that's why it made sense for them to do that. Now it's in America. It makes sense for MLB to do it. I would never have said that MLB would ever participate in the Olympics until like now with Shohei being on board. It's
the way this happens is that the rest of the owners receive a bit of the revenue share, because essentially you're asking all of the other owners to stop playing baseball so that guys on their teams, some of them, maybe not every team features a guy, so that they could go make money for a completely separate entity. That's why I'm saying, like, you're going to have to get all these guys on board, all these billionaires, to digest that. And I think if we're just kind of paying attention to how they operate, if you get a group of billionaires together and you tell them that this could benefit them a little further down the road, you just got to kind of make this concession right now, they might be willing to look the other way.
I think it would be sick. I mean, if you put baseball in the Olympics and you put all the best players in it, like, I'm having a hard time. Like, what event is going to be bigger than that? I guess like gymnastics. I mean, I know gymnastics does numbers. I don't know if Simone Biles is going to be still kicking around. Who's going to be the new gymnastics star? Who's going to be swimming? Do we all like care about to see swimming?
Ledecky, crush.
Yeah. Or, I guess NBA, like the basketball team does really well. But I mean, honestly, like having Japan versus America with Shohei versus all these Americans, and everyone's rooting for America when really Japan will probably be favorited at this point. Japan hadn't lost an international game since 2019 until like this weekend.
Well, I also think it's interesting to think about, to your point about whether Japan would be favored. What would a USA team actually look like at the end of the day, too? Like, I know that's a future exercise, but like, we're thinking about all the players in Major League Baseball.
We'll draft our team, Jay.
Who's going to actually represent the team? Like, I don't think anybody cares, to your point, about the sport being in the Olympics unless the stars are following. Because nobody would care about the NBA player or the basketball being in the Olympics in this country if it was all amateur, higher end college players playing instead of the NBA players. Like, and I want it to become part of baseball players' legacies. Like, I think that would be cool if the Olympics and these international tournaments, the WBC for that matter, like if these were part of not top line stuff, but like part of the dialogue for a player when they retire is like, hey, yes,
part of the,
or maybe no World Series victories, but like, 2028, Olympic champion, like XXX WBC champion. Like, that's how it is for basketball. Like, part of the reason why those guys show up and play is because it impacts, it is part of their legacy conversation. Like Carmelo Anthony, just to name one player, and Kevin Durant for that matter, like both of those guys are going to be viewed in slightly different lights when you talk about their legacy as basketball players because of their international careers, like above and beyond. Durant being the winningest, male basketball player of all time, and Carmelo for a long time being like the most consistent force on the international side for the men. So like, I don't know. That's where I want to see baseball go. It's got a long way to go to get there.
I think,
but
Well, I mean, with the NBA, I mean, let's be honest, dude. How much does fucking Carmelo's Olympic medal make a difference in his legacy? Slightly. Like people might say he won the fucking. They win it every year, dude. Like it.
I mean, I think for a guy who did not win an NBA championship, it actually matters a lot. I think it's like one of the first things that will be mentioned when you're talking about Carmelo Anthony's overall basketball career. He won a championship in college. He's an incredible winning player on the international side. And then you have his NBA career, which is a lot of winning, but just not a championship. I think it really does matter.
It matters a little, but in soccer, if you win a World fucking Cup, that's like more important than like winning whatever league. Everything. I don't call that shit Premier League or whatever. Like, I think baseball has the opportunity to be more like that because basketball, I'm sure it's changing. It's different now, but like it's America wins it every time, mostly. I mean, there's not every fucking time, but mostly. Like I think baseball internationally is way more competitive and like, we're not going to beat the Dominican every year. We're definitely not beating Japan every year. They're probably the best right now. And then you got Venezuela. Like that would be really competitive in every one place.
But that would also be a potential hurdle to growing. And I'm not even saying it's a bad thing. And I think you're right. But like that would be a potential hurdle to growing that side of it would be if the U.S. men or the U.S. baseball team gets to 2028 and is knocked out in the quarterfinals or however it works. And then you got to wait 4 more years before USA baseball or 3 more years until it's even a conversation point.
Yeah.
Again, that's why it's difficult to do this. Like you need those sustained runs and that the US men basketball like are expected to compete for the championship every year is like, yes, it's a little bit, this year was not, it was very dramatic how they won it, but like, it's also good because you want a lot of exposure, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, what was I going to say? Fuck. Dude. That's the biggest issue is that if America, that's why the WBC took a long time to catch on in America. So we sucked ass at it. Like we got eliminated like the first 3 tournaments. Like we didn't do shit and no one cared about the WBC. The rest of the world, all the baseball countries, this was like the top tournament. They all gave a fuck. We didn't, because if our team sucks in America, like we got other shit going on. We'll watch a different sport, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Once we started winning in 2017, we won that. And then this year got to the finals. The WBC was huge. It's really, like you said, it goes down to participation. I think that, I mean, I would actually ask Dallas, like as a pitcher, and that was the problem with last WBC. All the pitchers didn't want to pitch. If it's in the middle of the season, do you think that pitchers will be more likely to pitch?
1,000%. Because what you are doing, and this is if it's me as a player and I want to wear the red, white, and blue, buddy, I'll get up and get going and get ready whenever you need me to. I have to be ready to pitch 9 innings in February. Done. Just tell me that. And getting on the same page as that and ownership allowing their resources to extend themselves like that, that's the conversation we're having. When you make that phone call in July, Joe, where I'm fucking 15 starts into this thing, I don't have to adjust a goddamn thing. Maybe a day or 2 worth of rest, right? Catch, play, bullpen, figure it out. And now I'm on this track and I'm good to go. I'm absolutely good to go. So this, in terms of being ready and being prepared in season, is the optimal time for that reason. You want to eliminate the idea of teams not allowing their players to go play because of physicality. Well, let's have that conversation in the middle of them physically performing, because now you're not worried about that. You're not worried about a guy getting up on his arm too early, not enough time to get ready, and bang, he blows. And now you don't have him for a year, right? What if Garrett Crochet was somebody who wanted to pitch in the Olympics and had to get himself ready quicker, and the team that he's just getting ready to sign with that he knows is going to extend him is like, we're not ready to do that because we're looking to extend this guy. Last thing we want to do is, before we extend him, have him go out there and pitch for a gold medal and then blow. I don't want that to happen. But if you're calling in July and that conversation's already been had, you're going to have a lot more luck getting guys to perform.
Everyone wants going to play in that. Like, I mean, Aaron Judge already said he wants to play in it. Bryce Harper, obviously, like everyone and all the pitchers. Joe, I think, I mean, the WBC's in 2 years. I mean, the participation is going to go crazy. I think the pitchers are going to pitch even before the season
Well,
in the March tournament.
It's
But in the
interesting
middle of the
because
season, it's be stacked.
well, and the crochet thing I think is an interesting conversation point that I didn't even think about until right now, because he's a dude who's saying, look, I'm not trying to extend myself until you commit to me. I'm not going to do X and Y and Z until you commit to me. For a team, is that going to be a guy that's tough to sign up for the Olympics? So if you have young stars, young players who haven't been breaded up a la Achurio or things like that, are they going to be easily convinced to go and play on this team, to be a part of this stage, because they have not hit their payday? They don't have any guarantees coming their way, right? A player year two arbitration-wise who might be in line for a good payday, well, he doesn't have the guarantees. He doesn't have that to support him. So if he goes out and gives you everything he can during this Olympic run, that's fantastic. But coming off the Olympic run, if he has to take a breather, he's down a month, now that impacts earning power next year, blah, blah, blah. So it's a monster, man. It truly is a monster that has to be handled very carefully for everything, for every reason that I'm saying right now.
Yeah, there's going to be people who sit out. But I mean, each year goes by, more and more people want to do this. I really think that like by the time I die, that like a World Baseball Classic, or maybe it's the Olympics, will be like as important than a World Series ring. The way it is in other countries right now, in the Dominican, Japan, that's what they say.
Hey,
it's
Joe,
going to be like that because I think it's just getting bigger and bigger every year.
You think this can help national pride? National pride. Like I'm being serious. Like how long has it been since baseball was ever even has been thought of as America's national pastime? Like that ship has sailed a long time ago. But is there any thought now that having this become more present and prevalent, that younger kids might say, hey, I want to play for the fucking USA. I want to play for the red, white, and blue. I want to wear that jersey. Now it's a real thing. Now maybe the kids who are 14, 15, 16 care just that much more. Because you mean to tell me that you can't find a single child performing in the Koshin tournament that doesn't want to wear Japan on their chest in the Olympics or the WBC? There's not one of them.
Oh, yeah.
I bet you could probably find some kids over here that'd be like, oh, but bro, like I've got, I don't know, man. It's like, it wouldn't even be a thought. But over here, it's like, well, there's, I got options, man. Like, really?
You're right.
Olympic baseball?
I think you're right. I think it could be a great propaganda tool for our country. We could be going into World War coming up. So it's important that we get the kids into USA. We're the best at baseball. Fuck every other country. We're number one. I mean, as a country, we need to start thinking about these things. It's important that we make baseball Olympics. Because what if we go to war? We need to have,
I mean, guys that can hit baseballs.
If you're saying war is imminent, I don't think we're going to be able to turn around USA baseball in time. I think that's a much longer project. I think we need other ideas to
Joe, because I got to be honest, in
they're
terms
both
of
good
making
ideas, but like just happen to be on the same timelines. It doesn't.
Well, I don't know, Jay, when I think about it, like, we did our due diligence as a group, as a nation, by making the hand grenade similar size to a baseball.
Yeah.
From there, I don't know what we've done militarily as a complex to give our baseball playing youth an advantage.
Well, if you want to get the young men to sacrifice their lives for the good of the country, you get them to love the country. How do you get them to love the country? You fucking beat Japan in the World Baseball Classic or the Olympics, and you prove that we're the best baseball country. It's like, I'm an American, I'm the best at baseball. Obviously, we deserve to be, I would die for Mike Trout and Bryce Harper.
There you go.
Their ability to win gold. Because I'm so proud to watch these guys. I'm proud to be an American. Were you proud to be an American after the 2017 Baseball Classic final? Weren't you proud? You had your chest out. We're the best, baby. Don't fuck with us.
That's right. Joe always gives the best pump-up speeches for this country. Routinely.
I'm the last one who gives a fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Everyone else, all these people at the top, all these politicians, they don't give a fuck. They say they do. I'm the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Trump just got elected. Did he ever talk about the World Baseball Classic?
Not once.
Just saying, dude.
Jake, book Donald Trump. I want to see. I
where
want to
he's at on
see.
the WBC.
Yeah, I mean, like we can keep it away from politics. He obviously does a lot of podcasts. We can keep it. It's kind of like when we had Kurt Schilling on the podcast. We were like, we got to keep it straight baseball. Let's see what he thinks about the World Baseball Classic in the United States in the Olympics. Just tell them we only want like 15 minutes, 20 max.
Yeah, we'll play the
He
first.
could go off for 15 minutes. Pitch clock.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he loves baseball, from what I understand. I don't know much about the man, but I believe he's a baseball fan.
Olympics. That's immigration. You know, that's a big topic.
Mm-hmm.
Let him riff on that.
Sure. All right.
Why didn't he throw in the first pitch, D? Come on,
Yeah,
DT, get out there, throw the first pitch. You
Yeah.
scared?
Good question.
You
It's a
scared,
great
bro?
question. It's a great question. We got the hard hitting questions here. Really quick before we get on out of here, we were throwing around this idea of revisiting old MLB drafts
Ooh.
and redrafting them.
Yeah,
It's kind
I
of
think
a
it's a
work
great
in
idea.
progress.
Yeah, I think because I immediately was like, well, you know, I don't know how much time we're going to spend poring over the thousands of draft picks per year. So maybe if we isolate it to like a top 50 players per draft, but then I was thinking to myself, you know, just because the top 50 guys are available doesn't mean those are the best guys taken in that draft.
Mhm.
There's guys who show up later that make an impact. So it sounded like a great idea when I had it.
Yeah.
Dude, I can't even imagine how many times a day that happens to you.
A lot. A lot.
Where
But
you
there
have an
are no-
idea that just sounds like amazing, and then you
They're-
start saying it, and you're like, I'm
they're
so
great.
confused, and it's like, what
I'm
was my
so
idea?
confused.
Well, it's just
Um,
it's about diligence from there. It's like, do you want to
Mhm.
look over the you know, however many draft picks are taken?
So may I, your guy's idea, may I make a suggestion as to how we
Please.
should do it?
Yeah.
I feel like there are going to be a limited number of people in a given year's draft that are actually truly, when we get down to it, of interest
Mhm.
for this sort of activity.
Mhm.
So I think whether Jake will participate is up to him, obviously. But if we do a 5-man panel or a 4-man panel, I think we just go like maybe 12 to 15 deep in a given
Mhm.
draft, and then just redraft that number of spots so that we're all making basically 3 selections. And I
Mhm.
think the quality will take care of itself from there on out.
Yeah, I didn't envision doing like 3 rounds or anything like that. I like that number. The 12 to 12-ish region.
Yeah, because then we're having to make some real decisions. You know, we're getting the elite players in the draft, but I think the number of years where we're going to be leaving meat on the bone on like 13, 14, and 15, or 16, 17, and 18 are going to be very few and far between.
I can't
Does
wait.
anybody
for the
disagree?
2000.
Does anybody disagree with that idea? I mean,
No.
feel free if you disagree with that.
No,
approach,
so
but-
this is a 3-round draft, is what you're saying?
Yes.
yeah,
We're
so,
drafting
like,
about 100 players.
so I'm going to pull up a random, semi-random draft. So
2012, people are saying.
Oh, okay. I had one pulled up. Is that okay? Can I
Yeah,
just do one?
sure.
So I
Yeah,
have
go ahead.
2001 just in front of me. That's just the one I clicked. That obviously has played out to completion. And
I'm taking Dallas Braden in the 47th round. That's what I'm taking.
So like there are only 6 players from that particular draft that even accumulated 10 or more wins above replacement in their entire careers. So like that's Mauer, Teixeira, David Wright. All right, so far pretty interesting. Mark Pryor, Gavin Floyd, Noah Lowry, Casey Kochman, Bobby Crosby, Jeremy Bond.
Bones.
I'm
so, like-
taking I take Mauer as my pick.
Right, but my point is that like
I'm
we're going
crushing
to
this
run
draft
out of
order.
decisions. Like, are we going to be debating Jeremy Sowers versus John Ford Griffin? You know,
Ooh, do your homework. I'm taking JFG, no doubt.
anyway, that's just a suggestion. So we can pick out whatever the number is, but probably, maybe 3 selections per person or something like that.
Maybe we should draft could we have like a rookie of the year draft? All the rookie of the years who've won, we draft.
These are
those guys.
different things.
I know.
Yeah, wildly different things.
See, another thought, another idea.
Right.
It's a good one.
We got to
just
collect them. They're like
says
butterflies. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep the good ideas coming. But
I like the draft idea. We should start that.
yeah, that was a great idea by whoever thought of that.
You should spin the wheel and figure out what year we're drafting so we can all prepare for whenever we're going to do it.
Well, I would say if we were going to do it, it would be like a week from now.
That's great.
Yeah, because we got a lot of shit coming up on the Wednesday episode this week because of the Turkey Day on Thursday. We'll be recording on Wednesday. So we have Family Feud. We have MVP discussion with Justin Havens. And maybe we could do it on Wednesday just because I don't know how much news is going to happen between now and 2
I think
days
Wednesday
from now.
should be fun. We need to make Wednesday fun because people
Make
can
Wednesday
either
fun.
listen to it on Wednesday to travel to wherever
Yeah.
they're going. Maybe they
it's
save it
evergreen.
and pop it up on Thursday. But yeah,
All right.
I think it should be fun.
All right, then let's
Spin the wheel, man.
redraft. All right. I was just going to throw a random year out there, but
Can I make one more suggestion before you spin the wheel? Should we have the years that we're spinning be some sort of that's going to be interesting to our fan base? Like, I don't think we want to.
Yeah, we don't want to redraft the 1962 draft class, right?
no,
That's kind
I
of my point.
personally
Yeah.
don't.
I don't know how far back is of interest, but whatever that is, we should just pick it and then.
Well,
you
it's
should
the
spin wheel.
2008 draft, so that's not that far back.
Oh, great. Okay. I didn't even know you were spinning. That's crazy. Like, I got so nervous there.
Well, I used your
Yeah.
year generator for the MVP thing.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, cool. So we've got
But I can set it so that there's a cutoff year. Like what's the latest year you want to do it for the future?
does the Mark Teixeira draft interest anybody? Does redrafting Joe Mauer and Mark Teixeira, like not specifically that, but that era of player, or is that too far back or not far back enough?
I mean, those are my contemporaries. So
Yeah, I think like if we just go back to however long we started watching baseball, like players
So I
that
think
we
it should be either wild card era or since 2000. I think should be the cutoff then.
like who is in like, I mean, even in like the 90s, like that, like those drafts, like we knew those guys.
Chipper,
Yeah.
Manny.
Could go wild card era or 1990 or later.
1990 or later.
Okay.
Let's do 1990 or later moving forward. But as for Wednesday, we'll be redrafting the 2008 Major League Baseball draft.
So does that mean? I mean, not to put somebody on the spot. Does that mean Joey's not going to participate?
Oh yeah, Joe, what the fuck, man? Are you coming?
Well, I will not be here on Wednesday.
What do you got? What are you
I'll
doing?
be traveling.
All right, I'll call you and then you can phone in your picks.
Okay, I mean, I
Busiest
don't know,
travel day of the
service
year,
might
Joe.
not. I'll be honest, service might not be good, dude. I'm going.
Then
to
you can
fucking-
you can text me your picks. You can text me.
Dude, this
Just
is
have
gotta,
I'm gonna have Joe have the 2008 draft open.
Yep.
And then I will text you who picks what, and then I'll be like, "You're on the clock," and then you can text
live
me
on
your
the
pick.
street. Live on the call.
You can text me.
Okay, I will be driving a car.
All right,
So,
text
like-
and drive, dude. Don't be a pussy. What are you talking about?
dude. This
All right.
this draft has an amazing
Pull
choice
over.
at 1. The decision at 1-2 is going to be amazing for whoever gets that first pick.
I could.
And
pull
yeah,
over.
are we gonna randomly generate draft order? How are we doing that?
Yeah, we'll randomly generate draft order.
All right, do we need to know prior? I would like
Do
to
you want
know.
me to-
I would.
do you want me to
I
do
would
that
not
now?
like to be
Yeah, we
surprised.
can do that. We can do that right now.
I'd
if
like to
Jared
know
says
where I'm
that's cool.
picking. Do some.
Well,
homework.
I'd like to know if Joe's participating.
I'll pull over, bro.
All right, Joe's
Can't
gonna pull over.
any farther.
I'll FaceTime you from the
Already
gas
pulled over.
station.
Is Jake going to participate? We need to know that too.
Jake,
Yeah.
are you participating?
We'll just do you 4 if Joe's going to pull over.
Okay. So
All right.
so 1, 2, 3.
Joe, your girlfriend's going to fucking hate you. Why are we sitting here at the rest stop for an hour? Hold on, babe.
right.
Miguel Cabrera is about to fall to me right now. Hold on.
I think my recommendation is that we should do a maximum of 12 selections then.
Okay, that's fine.
That's
All right.
three. That's 3.
I'm going to
So
generate the
3
draft
each.
order right now.
Yeah.
Generating the draft order right now.
I need
would-
visuals of this.
This is huge. Whoever gets 1 and 2 has huge advantages on building their team over 3
I'm
and 4.
I'm FaceTiming Dallas right now for authentication. Do you have your phone, Dallas?
I got my phone.
Yeah, I can't pick up my laptop and turn it around.
I'm going to be able to see whatever it is in the glare
Got
off of
it.
Dallas's forehead.
See it?
So no
Ready?
cheating.
It is Joe, Jay, Hay, me,
What
and
the
Dallas.
fuck?
Nice. Yes.
Fuck! Hey, redo it. Bad. It
Wow,
didn't work.
Joe's got a hell of a decision at the top to marinate on.
Son of a bitch.
First pick, Joseph. Second pick, Justin Havens. Third pick, Jared Carabas. Fourth pick, Dallas Braid.
It's awesome, Dallas. Congratulations. That sets you up to take Hosmer. Good for you.
That's awesome.
If you want.
Oh.
He'll be
Plenty
there.
of people in his range.
Oh.
Mhm.
This is going to be fun. I'm excited to dig in on, do I want Logan Forsythe or Jake Odorizzi?
How do you overlook a Brett Lowry, Jay?
I'm
That's
not.
true.
I'm not overlooking Brett Laurie, nor am I overlooking, Alani Chisenhall.
That's right.
There's some real peak value to be had there. I think in that one season that he had.
You know me. I like Ike Davis.
Hey, but jokes aside, for
Mhm.
like baseball nerds, which I'm assuming this segment is going to appeal to on some level, there's maybe nothing better than digging in on like, would I rather have had Aaron Hicks's career or Brett Laurie's career? Or like, what's Wade Miley's value versus Eric Hosmer or something
Brad
like
Hand.
that? Like, yeah, Justin Smoke, Ike Davis, Gordon Beckham, Pedro.
Honestly,
like this
Craig
draft has
Kimbrell's in here. Charlie
Buddy.
Blackman.
Brandon Crawford. Come on.
Yep.
Will Smith.
Kipnis. Trevor May. This is gonna get
So it's-
interesting.
So it's clear you guys have already forgotten about Hubert Simmons.
So, all right, we need to set some ground rules here. Only if a player is selected. So it doesn't matter if he went on to sign. Like if a player is selected out of high school and then re-entered the draft and went to college.
That's an interesting wrinkle, by the way.
Yeah, I think it's just if they were drafted that year, then they can go. Because that changes everything. Like say you got drafted out of high school in the 3rd round, but we're making you the 1st overall pick, then you would sign.
Yeah,
I think it's just you have to be drafted.
I'm okay with either. Whatever you guys want to do, I will make do with either one. I think either one's fun. So
Well,
Yeah.
if you were selected at any point in time in the draft, you're
Great.
available.
great.
Yeah, I
Makes
think
it a
that
little
there's
deeper then too.
plenty of names in this
yeah.
draft in
Hey,
particular where like
And you know what?
we
All right,
could we could go deeper. We could go past 12
well, no.
here.
Do you
now
want
here's
to?
the thing. Here's the
I
thing.
think we could.
Discord. You about that life? Discord, you about that action? We need weighted value added to these draft picks now. All right. Because if I've got 3 draft picks that are, let's say each of them are selected in their respective drafts, 10th round or beyond, but I select them early and they stack up, I need some weighted, I need some help here.
Yeah. There's some man.
Do you want to
there-
go 16? Do you want to go 16?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
4?
let's do it.
For a pop.
Four each.
Because
It's a
Yeah.
nice,
Now-
yeah, it's a nice quad.
are we gonna mandate 2 and 2? Or you can roster
No, you can do
construction
whatever
however
the
you
fuck
want.
you want.
All right.
I'm not going
Oh,
to be
you-
mandated to take any pitcher if I don't want to.
Tell me what to do. My fucking team.
That's right.
My fucking draft.
Let the people decide whose team is best. Obviously, there'll be some sort of voting component about this as to, like, did I have the best team or the best team by far? Right.
Mhm.
Right. Well, that's what I was looking to make sure that was established here. Is everybody, because I want you guys to know who was second place. That's kind of fucked up if you guys don't know where you fall in line.
Mhm. I'm excited for this. This is going to be fun.
Yep.
On Wednesday, the MVP conversation. Family Feud
Oh my gosh.
in the debut of the Sweet 16. This is
wow.
yeah, this is gonna be great. This is gonna be great. So, and Joe texting in his picks from the side of the road. Where are you going, Joe?
I'm going to the family farm, baby.
All right, yeah. Hell yeah,
Nice.
brother.
Floyd County,
Nice.
Virginia.
Yep.
Really?
right.
Oh, hey, Joe, how long are you going to be there? And for Baseball is Dead listeners, I am going to be trekking across the country from upstate New York back to California.
What the fuck do you know about upstate?
I know everything. Hornell Dodgers. What do you know about New York, pal? Learn about it.
You don't know a damn thing.
Yeah, you're looking at the franchise fucking record holder for punch outs for the Hornell Dodgers, pal. Learn about it. Anyways, I'm going to be cruising across the country with a Great Dane pup, and I may or may not need lodging to come in from the winter
You're gonna
cold.
live with a fan?
I will live. Me and my pup will live with a fan. If you have lodging to provide,
What's Eamon doing? Can we get him on this trip?
Yeah, I feel like
Document,
this we
document
have
live with a fan. Yeah.
You're doing that alone, Dallas?
yeah, dude, I was going to take the family, but my wife was like, buddy, you think that I am signing up to sit in the car with 3 children, 7 and under for 4 days while
Also,
you fucking
she's famous. Why would she get in a car and drive
That's
across the
true.
country and stay with
She-
random
she's-
assholes,
Why did
bro?
she let you use the PJ for this?
Well, I was going to say, she's laughing at me. She's like, see, if I was invited, this would be a PJ trip, but
Right.
yeah, you go ahead and have fun sledding back with your fucking
Yeah.
dog, loser.
Yeah.
So, but anyways,
people
yeah.
should.
Well, yeah, you should document that in some form or fashion, whether Eamon's, signed up for it or not. I'm sure he's available. No problem.
Yeah. He doesn't have
Yeah,
shit
so-
to do.
If you have accommodations
Jake,
for
just
myself,
yell down the hall and see if he's down to go for the stay with a fan road trip.
even you're going sledding with Dallas.
I believe when we were at the All-Star game, the Discord mods said that anything we needed, they would be happy to accommodate. So Dallas, if it sounds like this is your opportunity to
All right.
leverage that.
Yeah.
All right. Put your money
There
where
you
your
go.
mouth is, Discord.
All right. We'll be back on Wednesday. Anyone have any final thoughts?
No, I just am excited to have a Hall of Fame conversation at some point.
Yeah.
Probably closer to the actual Hall of Fame, but I've started going over the ballot, and I don't know that this is not the best ballot ever, but I think you could conceivably make a case for like 14 or 15 players are Hall of Fame caliber, and like 12 of those are like eye of the beholder type of candidates for a lot of people. And I just find it fascinating, and some more so than others. Felix Hernandez, maybe number 1 on that list, but I'm excited to talk about that at some point over the offseason.
You know who I have been in touch with recently about joining us on this podcast to talk Hall of Fame?
Ooh.
Kirk Minahan.
Okay, is he a big Hall of Fame guy?
Yes. He
Oh,
used
thought
to
you were
used
gonna
to
say
write.
Babe Ruth. I mean, Bobby,
He's dead.
Barry Bonds.
He's burning in
Sorry.
hell. I love Barry Bonds in the show. He used to write the back of baseball cards. That was like a little
that's
side
fun.
job for him back in
Oh,
the day.
shit.
Yeah, very passionate about the Hall of Fame is Kirk Minahan. So
Well, there's
Um,
a good Red Sox candidate among those people I was referencing too this
a
year.
great
with
candidate, a great
Pedroia.
candidate, a great candidate. And we'll get to that. Because if
Okay.
Buster Posey's in, Dustin Pedroia's in. That's all I got to say about that.
Okay, that is
Um,
quite a tease.
Jake Stakes?
Petey Pub.
Just pumped for the 28 Olympics. I just hope we don't go to war first.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that could stop it, Jake.
Yeah,
That's the one thing that could stop the momentum of the Olympics.
that's right. So, all right. Keep the peace. Keep the peace. Team USA. Dontrell Willis on Wednesday as well, right?
Yes. We got D-Train. We got D-Train coming up on Wednesday.
Donald Trump on Monday.
Yeah, Trump on Monday. I do want to the Hall of Fame conversation is going to be something that's really cool, because this is, for me personally, it's really cool because these are guys that I played with. These are guys
Yeah, the
that I
first
played
class
against.
of your boys.
These and the guys that are going to follow. So this is a really cool time for me because I have a ton of respect. I think you guys know how much I respect all the guys that I played against and I played with. I'm a huge fan.
Well, you
at
called
the-
Nelson Cruz a bitch. You said that. I don't know if I don't know if the mic was on.
Nelly. Nelly knows a lot better than that. That is not true.
Plus, there's that other person that he said was his best friend, whose name he forgot.
Oh yeah. He did do that.
Bruce
yeah.
Chen.
Bruce Chen.
Bruce Chen.
Yeah.
And then also a huge thank you to Mr. Kendrick.
Yes.
For the folks who are going to listen to this and maybe catch wind of him for the first time. I don't know how that's possible if you've listened to us because we talk about him all the time. I love that dude. I know how much work goes into doing what he does. And so for him to take the time to share with us just his thoughts, and it's really cool. And I said it when MLB The Show came out with it. I said that this is hands down, unequivocally, the single most impactful thing that video game has ever done or will ever do. And to hear him talk about the fact that they've signed a 5-year deal to do this, he's working on year 3 content, and the attention that it's gotten, deservedly so, I think is only going to continue to swell and will only continue to do positive things for our game, shedding light on the Negro League and its stars. So just very, very, very appreciative of Mr. Kendrick and his time.
That's a good point. And I just, I would be remiss if I didn't mention also that this is Feast Week at Underdog. So if you were curious about what that means, Underdog is stuffing the lobby with promos during the Feast Week. We're talking profit boosts, discounts, gimme picks, and so much more. So bring your friends to the table during their Refer a Friend event, and you'll be eating on Underdog, both of you. And obviously promo code Jared.
JRED. All right. We'll see you guys Wednesday.
Wow.